Hey everyone. I want to talk about a movie from a little bit earlier than the films I usually talk about. It's a movie from 1960 called Peeping Tom. And some serious horror fans may have already seen this film. Others may not have. If you haven't seen it, I would highly suggest that you take the time to search it out um, and give it a whirl. It's definitely a proto-slasher. It comes before the big first wave of slasher films that we saw in the late 70s and early 80s. But it's actually a genius piece of filmmaking. Uh, the movie was so controversial on its release that it actually destroyed the career of the director and effectively ended his career in filmmaking in the UK. But now it's being discovered as actually being a masterpiece. Basically, the story centers around a relatively young man who lives in an apartment building that he owns and pretty much keeps to himself, uh, working on his films and his photographs in his dark room in his apartment. He occasionally ventures out to moonlight at a local news shop in London. I'm assuming it's London, uh, where he takes questionable underground photographs of lingerie-clad beauties to be sold under the counter to select clients at said newsstand. Um, but he does venture out with his video camera to do some rather nasty deeds. He enjoys stalking young women, filming them and murdering them while filming their deaths. And while that premise seems rather simple, it's actually not. There's a lot of backstory that you get involved in, that's explained throughout the film. Um, as a child, his father, I think he was a psychologist or psychiatrist or something, performed ongoing experiments on his son by waking him up in the middle of the night, by screaming at him, shaking him, scaring him, and capturing it all on video as a way to kind of document the effects of fear on one's psyche and one's nervous system. Well, this would screw up anybody, and it effectively screwed him up. And so he, in adulthood, cannot relate to women other than through the lens of a camera. And then, even then, the only way that he really can connect with them is with the knife that he has embedded in one of the ends of the legs on his tripod. And he essentially stalks women while filming them and then raises the leg on this tripod that has a knife blade at the end of it and films their reaction as he kills them. And it's really sad because he actually starts to fall for one of the tenants that lives in his building, a nice young gal who pops over to offer him a piece of her birthday cake during a birthday party being held for her in her apartment. He begins to fall for her. She begins to fall for him. One night, she stupidly decides to sneak into his apartment, sees the reel-to-reel video player set up and turns it on and witnesses some video footage that she probably wishes that she hadn't. And he then reveals that his father had done these horrid experiments. The film was way ahead of its time, and it pretty much, I don't think that the audience at the time was prepared emotionally, psychologically, or even physically to witness what was being projected on the screen in front of them. Critics panned it. Um, Regardless, I think they just saw the content and they were completely mortified, and decided to just say that this is a piece of garbage. It's not a piece of garbage. And if you haven't seen it, definitely this is one that I think that every horror fan who's never seen it needs to sit down and watch it. And watch it with an open mind. I mean, yeah, it's dated and there's a lot of elements that would cause confusion to more contemporary people now. There's a lot of things that were considered taboo back then that now wouldn't be anything. But give it a watch with an open mind. I don't even think you need much of an open mind to watch it. It's just a great film, and definitely an early entry into what would later evolve into what we appreciate more as slasher cinema. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.